Hi guys, welcome back to the PTC podcast. Today I'm with Sam Morris. How you doing, Sam?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to see you, Keith.
Yeah,
Doing well.
welcome. Yeah, Sam and I met each other in Nepal. It's 2 months ago now, isn't it, when we were doing Ever Space Camp?
Yeah, a little while now. Yeah.
And you were famous for your rowing the Atlantic 2 years ago. I saw recently as well. That's on your story. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and we can start there and just rock and roll?
Sure, yeah. Well, actually, my endurance journey started in 2015 when, after being in Dubai for 8 years by that stage, I felt like I needed a lifestyle change. So that's when I got my first rescue dog, signed up for the MDS, so I ran across the Sahara and carried on doing ultra marathons, and then a few years ago decided to do something a bit bigger. So signed up to row across the Atlantic and to raise awareness about plastics in the oceans.
Oh, cool.
We did it for two amazing charities as well. So one of them is called Azraq, which is the Arabic word for blue, and it's the first ocean charity in the Middle East. And also we did it for Plastic Oceans UK, which has just been rebranded as Ocean Generation. And that was made famous by Sir David Attenborough, who said everyone needs to watch their documentaries, in particular A Plastic World. So we did it for those reasons and obviously personal reasons as well. But it was absolutely amazing. 38 days from La Gomera across to Antigua.
So where's La Gomera? Portugal?
Next to Tenerife in the Canary Islands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then all the way across to Antigua, 38 days.
Yeah.
How many guys were in the boat? There's a few of you?
In my boat, there were 3 of us, but in total, in my race, there were 36 boats.
Oh, it was a race, was it?
It's a race every year. They call it a race, but obviously it's about survival. But,
Yeah.
But it's quite cool having the race scenario, because then you could get to sort of check every day when you get your little satellite dish out and get the messages dropping. You see where you are with the other boats. But after about 6 hours, you set off, and after about 6 hours, you do not see another living soul. We passed through 3 cargo ships and 1 yacht in the whole time. One of the cargo ships came very close.
Really?
Yeah, and we think the captain was asleep at the helm. It was middle of the night. So we were on the deck with a laser pen and a flare gun,
really?
trying to radio them as they were coming towards us. And eventually they woke up, and obviously they were like, "We can't see you." And we're like, "Well, we're a tiny little rowing boat and we can't get out of your way." And he's like, "Well, I'm a big cargo ship. It takes me miles to turn." And luckily he missed us by about 2 kilometers, which is actually very close in nautical terms.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's intense. So then the yacht, did the yacht see you? Who was on the yacht?
Yeah, the yacht saw us. Again, that went by probably about 1 kilometre away. One of the tempting things is to radio the yacht, have a chat, and we said hi to them on the radio, but it's tempting to call them over and have a chat, and then they start to offer you food and stuff like this, and we were pre-warned about it. And obviously you're there, you're sleep deprived, you're running on a calorie deficit, and there's someone offering you a can of Coke or something like this. So we made sure we didn't say to them, come alongside. And
What happens if they give you some food?
Well, probably no one would find out, but then that would be classed as as an assisted crossing, and we were doing an unassisted crossing. So
so the whole race is unassisted. You're not allowed help.
Yeah.
So you had everything then. You had all your supplies, all your food, all your water.
Yeah, everything. So water. We had I think it's called a Schenker 30, which is a desalinization machine.
Okay.
So that makes about 30 litres an hour. So once a day, when the sun was at its highest, charging the solar panels and our lithium batteries that were stored in the hull, we would run the water maker and make about 30 litres of water, which would last us for 24 hours. So we'd have about 10 litres each a day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what's a normal day then on a rowing boat rowing across the Atlantic?
A normal day.
What's a tip? What's a?
Yeah, it's.
Yeah. What is it like?
Well, for the smaller teams, so either 2s or the 4s, the regular size teams, they have regular shift patterns. So they do 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Some teams at night time they go to 3 hours on, 3 hours off.
3 hours on? You mean 3 hours
3
rowing?
hours on the oars, yeah.
On the paddle, on the oars, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas we were a 3, so our shift patterns were a bit more complicated. We tried a number of different things, but after 3 days, we actually went to 2 hours on, 1 hour off in the day. And then at night time, we ended up going to solo rowing. So you did a 2-hour shift. So it meant if you were first or third shift at night time, you got 2 blocks of 4 hours off the oars.
So
really cool.
There's 2 people paddling, is that what you call it?
In the daytime, rowing, yeah.
Together, rowing at the same time.
Apart from at night time, we went to solo rowing because we worked out actually that we were keeping up a similar speed with one person rowing at night time.
And are you I'm going to ask you some pretty stupid questions here. Is your oar one side or is it two sides?
Two sides, yeah.
Okay, so both of you, you're one in front of the other.
Yeah.
Same time, keeping the same rhythm.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something called crabbing, which is when your spoons of your oars hit, and in big waves, that happens quite regularly. And it's really, really annoying. You get a massive bang because like somebody's oar gets stuck in a wave.
Yeah.
And we had these like weird freak waves that suddenly, like you're rowing along and you're in quite big seas, and suddenly you get this huge wave coming towards you, and something happens and it spins and it comes down the side of a boat. So you look to your right and there's nothing. You look to your left and you can put your hand into the water. There's like really weird things, but then your oar is like stuck and it's being pulled this way.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were like strange scenarios like this, but it's pretty cool.
So you got to keep rhythm then with your teammate.
Yeah.
And then, so you're outside the boat, you're exposed to the sun, you're exposed to everything?
Yeah, 24 hours a day you're outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and because of the heat, obviously the sweat from the exercise, you're rowing 12 to 14 hours a day. And on top of that, all of the sea salt, you get some really, really bad sort of salt sores on your butt in particular.
Yeah.
So when you come off the oars, you're not just resting. You come off the oars, you fix your wounds first of all, so mostly your butt and your hands. Your hands are also locked and the blisters turn to calluses.
Yeah.
You then have to get your like calories in. So you're eating around 5,500 calories a day. That's really about the maximum that your body can absorb. The rest of it would just go through you. But you're expending around 7,000 to 8,000 calories a day. So there's a great photo of us from La Gomera, and then once we arrive in Antigua, I lost 11 kg in 38 days.
And you haven't got an extra 11 kg to lose.
Well, we all carb loaded. It was really fun, like 3 or 4 weeks before. So there's a 2-year lead-in period. So you do 2 years of training, getting bulked, ready for it, and then you have like 4, 6, maybe 8 weeks of just eating and drinking everything.
You're just trying to stack on extra energy.
And then the race organisers, they get you to La Gomera 2 weeks before. I think now they've shortened it to 10 days, but 2 weeks before. And there's a purpose to that, which is obviously like the mental side, because you need to disconnect from the real world before you go out to sea.
Right.
Because it's that extreme.
Wow.
But the other side is actually the carb loading side, which me and my team, we took very seriously. We were in the Blue Marlin bar, which is like the home of ocean rowing, where every ocean rower sort of sets off from when they do the Atlantic. We were in there every night taking our carb loading very seriously.
Okay. Yeah. And then your next day, just topping up those carbs in case you danced a few away. Yeah. So the boat then, just what does the boat look like, or how big is the boat? How small? Like, talk a little bit about the actual.
The boat is 8.2 meters long. It's got a flat middle, and that's where the 3 rowing stations were. At either end, there was a small cabin. So for sleeping or like in a storm, this is where you would lock yourself in. The cabins were also airtight, so you always have to have the doors locked in case you capsize, because then the boat will self-right because of the air pockets in the cabins. So that was really, really important thing to be aware of. And I'll come on to a story about that in a minute. In the middle of the deck, you have like little portholes where we stored most of our food. We also had various equipment. We had our life raft in the middle, our grab bag in there, and our desalinization machine. In the stern cabin, so in the rear of the boat, you have all your essential equipment. So that's your radio, your navigation, your AIS, which is your automatic identification system that alerts you to any other boats in the area and them to you. And then in the bow cabin in the front, it was slightly larger, so better to sleep in, but it was used more for storage. It had more storage lockers, and also had the on and off switches for the desalinization machine as well.
So how big is that cabin to sleep in? Like, you're having 1 or 2 people at a time, or just one, or what?
You can squeeze in 2 people, but it feels like you're in a coffin. You're literally like this. So in the rear cabin, in the stern cabin, you're there with your feet underneath the deck. So literally your feet are in like a box, and then the rest of you are kind of like this. But there's a bit of space where you can reach up and you can touch the ceiling. In the front cabin, in the bow, there was a bit more space, and your feet are not actually underneath anything. You're just in a small little box-like room.
And how difficult was it to sleep? Like, when you're trying to get some...
Oh, you're so tired. You're so sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So you're bouncing around, even in the big seas. So we had 3 days in the middle where we got the tail end of a storm, and we had these huge waves, absolutely huge, just relentless coming at us. But it's interesting because in the middle of the Atlantic, they're more rollers. They do break a bit at the top, so you see the white horses at the top. But yeah, some of them get really steep. So if the wind hits them at the right angle, it whips them up. So you're almost vertical. And we were getting maybe 17, 18 knots in some of these waves. And occasionally you get these waves coming at you, and then they just start to break at the top, and then the wave just comes over the boat, and you just get absolutely soaked. And it was a bit scary at the start.
I was going to say, does that not just terrify you that it's going to push you off?
Oh, it does. But then as the race goes on, you start to crave the big waves, because as soon as it's dead calm, it's like rowing through treacle. So you start to crave the wind and the waves. And you get used to it. And then you realise that the only two ways you're going to die ocean rowing are like going overboard and not being clipped on. So when you're on the deck, you're wearing a harness and you're always clipped onto the deck.
Right. And a life jacket.
And a life... no, like life jackets are optional. So...
Oh, really?
Yeah, like you're clipped on.
So as long as you're clipped on...
Yeah. Or if you capsize and one of your cabin doors is open, and then the cabin floods and the boat won't self-right. So in big seas, obviously trying to get water out of a cabin is not going to be possible. Trying to get the life raft out going underneath the boat is really dangerous with the boat in big seas and slamming on your head. So yeah, we had to make sure that our safety protocols were always...
What are the likelihood of, if your cabin door is open, the thing capsizes, that it sinks? Is that a possibility?
Probably wouldn't sink, because there are other air pockets, sealed compartments in the boat, but it just wouldn't self-right.
Okay.
So there is a manual hand pump on the outside of both cabins, but again, trying to seal the doors in rough seas, pump out that would just be an absolute nightmare.
So what would you do? What's the plan?
Well, then somebody would have to go under the boat to try and release the life raft and then get the grab bag, and then you would get onto the grab bag. And then in the grab bag and in the life raft, you had something called an EPIRB, which you've probably seen on boats. They're pretty big. They're about this size, and they've got a little area on the top. And they send out an emergency signal to a global satellite network that then goes to the lifeguard in Falmouth. So it's a global system, and then they coordinate with local lifeguard and rescues and cargo ships, etc. So then you would then have to wait for rescue. So normally a cargo ship in the Atlantics, you would hope someone would get to you within 24 to 48 hours, maybe 3 days. And then the other thing, speaking about life jackets, that was a fun conversation, because rowing in ocean is an expensive thing to do. It's about £140,000 with the boat and all the equipment and food and everything like this. So obviously there's a limited budget. So as a team, we had a big discussion about life jackets as one of the items we were buying. One of my teammates, he wanted to get the cheapest life jackets possible, because he was like, look, like, should we go overboard? You're dead anyway. And I get it. That's probably true. However, I wanted the best chance of survival, so I thought, I was like, yeah, you are probably dead. No one's going to find you, but still, I still want the best chance. And we ended up getting the sort of high to mid-range ones. We saved a bit of money on the life jackets. And actually, what
was the kind of budget difference? Like, how much are you talking? Are you talking thousands?
They're these like sort of cheap Russian ones you can get for 20 quid versus I think ours were like 200 or 300 quid. I can't remember now. It was a couple of years ago, but yeah.
So, and the overall scale of 140 grand for the full price tag, it's not that much. Difference. It's not like they're 10,000
for sure,
each.
But it all adds up when you're on a limited budget. So yeah. And then the other thing as well as the EPIRBs on the boat and in the grab bag, those like big yellow things with little aerials, we also part of the race rules is you've got to have a PLB on you, which is the mini EPIRB, and they just sit in your life jacket. So should you go overboard, you also can push a button on this thing, and for 24 hours we'll send out a signal to the same satellite network to the Falmouth Coast Guard, who will then coordinate a rescue. So we were also told, if you go over as a group, do not all set off your PLBs at the same time. Set them off one at a time. Yeah. So that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Because I was going to say 24 hours is like, God, you hope you'll be found in 24 hours, but also you might also be dead in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So.
Sharks.
Oh no! Did you see sharks?
Yeah.
You saw them?
Yeah. So the sharks generally followed us. So we just see a huge fin just following you, maybe 50 to 100 meters behind, and they're just like wondering what you were, and you're just going to they follow you,
like the movies.
Yeah, literally just that. And then the dolphins and the whales come up alongside you and around you, and the dolphins play at the bow.
That's
of
cool.
the boat. We saw sea turtles and birds. There was one.
Any mermaids?
Yeah, I saw a couple of things. I saw a giant spider come out.
Really?
I also had an Emirates A380 fly above me.
And it was an actual Emirates A380, or it was like
it was about 100 meters
spitting rainbows and sprinkles on top of you.
Well, yeah, it was just mad. And obviously then I realised it was a sleep deprivation.
Was it?
Yeah. But like, just because we went to our solo rowing at night time, we managed to get a bit more sleep in than other teams. So we didn't hallucinate really as badly. We were probably getting maybe 6 hours sleep a day, I would say, so maybe 7 if we were lucky.
Not in one go. Yeah, broken up, eh? Wow. So for 38 days... you're getting blocks of how many hours sleep at max?
Maximum maybe 2.5 hours.
Really?
In one go.
For 38 days.
Yeah.
So what kind of toll does that take on like the team's interaction with each other? Like
well, there's obviously the physical side as well as the mental side. So if I start on the physical side, we all made sure we had a buddy system. So every day we would take out our food packets, which were about 5,500 calories, and we always made checks that everyone was eating all of their calories every day. You know, occasionally someone might say, I'm feeling a bit rough today, I'm going to leave 1 or 2 of my meals, whatever it is, and they might go down to 3,000 calories for that day, but then we were just conscious of that and keep an eye on them. And we had these sort of Huel shakes, etc., which are like 400 or 500 calories each, to top us up if we needed. And then on the physical side, we also made sure that each other's wounds were okay and sort of helped each other out if we needed sort of patching up and bandaging and whatever. The mental side was quite interesting. So we all had our different coping mechanisms. One of the guys on my boat, every time he was off shift during daylight hours, he wouldn't rest. He would busy himself doing things. He would empty out the cabin. He would rearrange a locker. He would readjust the bin, and that was his coping mechanism. That was cool. His thing. The other guy went quite into himself a bit more, and he would spend a lot more time in his cabin, sort of sleeping, dozing, doing his thing. I think I was pretty much like that as well. And also I did like little video blogs. So I've got a couple of videos. I think I posted one on my Instagram, which was when I was at my very, very lowest. There's about 4 days to go, and the sleep deprivation, the salt sores, everything. I just wanted to be there. And I've got a video of myself just talking to myself, and that helps because you talk to yourself and then you watch it back, and it puts things in perspective. It really makes you sort of visualize yourself like you're watching yourself on television, like you're watching a documentary, and then you're like, and you snap out of it. So I'd highly recommend doing like little video blogs. If you're ever at a low, just talk about it to yourself and then watch it back, and it puts things in perspective.
So how did it make you feel? Like, what you see yourself struggling, you see yourself speaking negatively, I presume. You want to be there. What kind of things are you saying on the video, first of all?
I was just talking about how long to go, why I was feeling like I was feeling. A few days to go, I'm sleep deprived, the salt sores are getting to me, blah, 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 blah. We also had a big sign in the cabin saying, leave your shit attitude in the cabin, and we had these sort of mantras. And for my ultra running days as well, I've got a lot of fun mantras, So more serious ones, but I've got some fun ones as well, which I just say to myself and suddenly puts a smile on my face. So the serious ones are like, never give up. You've got this, all that kind of stuff. I used to run with an ultra runner called Kim Looney, who was incredibly fast. She was always in front of me. She was amazing. And I used to follow her up Fossil Rock. We were just talking about running in the sand dunes at Fossil Rock, and that's a huge sand dune. It takes about 15-20 minutes to get to the top. And I'd follow her up Fossil Rock, and she'd always be just ahead of me, wearing tiny little pink running shorts, and she'd turn around and give me a wink. And I'd always shout back, "Fuck you, Kim." And so anyway, that turned out to be one of my mantras. Yeah, I'll be running along and be in a dark place, and I'll just mutter, "Fuck you, Kim," and then put a smile on my face, and it'd bring back memories of Fossil Rock, the pain going up the massive sand dune, and psychologically it just made me a bit happier. Yeah.
So you watch yourself then on the video. What does it snaps you out of it? What takes you back to what?
Well, when you watch yourself, it puts things in perspective. You suddenly snap out and you think, I'm watching a third person. So like when you're watching somebody on television, when you're watching a documentary, you're thinking about that situation more objectively than the person who's in it, because they can't see out of that situation. So, yeah, when you watch yourself back, it actually then just suddenly you snap out of it, and it just puts it in perspective.
And what, you come back to like a less frustrated, less...
Yeah, okay. Very much so. Very much so.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, you suddenly think to yourself, solutions, not problems, I think. That's the main thing.
Okay,
yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's good advice. I don't know if I'll ever be rowing across the Atlantic, but...
I think you should. You've got the guns for it.
Well, the idea, 38 days, man, I don't know, like sitting in a boat for 38 days... I can't see that, because it must have been torture. There must have been moments where you're just because like you, I've done some long runs, and you spend a lot of time just in your head, but that's sort of why you're there for the run. But when you go into these long training programs and long duration, like expeditions or whatever, like going up mountains, there's so much dead time where you're just thinking. And those thoughts, they come and they go, but it's just, it can just torment you sometimes, to do 38 days in a boat with 2 other guys or 3 other guys. I don't know if I've got the...
Well, this is something I go and talk about in my talks now, and I say that everyone can do these things. It's all in the mind, and it's all about the mental training, mental toughness. And once you sign up to these things, as we were just saying to Desto a minute ago, just sign up and go for it.
Yeah.
Literally, once you've signed up, you're then committed. Then you work out how to do it.
Yeah.
Fake it until you. What's it? Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah.
And then on the mental training, I mean, we spent a long time as a team doing sort of ultimately marriage counselling, but we did it in a positive way. So rather than sit there in a group and say, Will, you annoy me doing this, Toby, you annoy me doing this, we self-identified. So I would say, I, Sam, know that I can annoy you guys by doing X, Y, and Z. And every month or 2 months when we did this, you'd write down a list, as many things as you could think of, and you'd go around one at a time, until you'd finish. And let's just say I finished first. The other two guys would keep on going. And once they had finished. And then we would then go on to then flipping it back the other way and say, Sam, thank you very much for identifying that you snore in the night. How are you going to mitigate that? And I just turned around and said, look, just punch me if I do that. I don't care. Oh, little things like that. Or
32 days in, though, someone's punching you because you haven't got sleep.
Yeah.
It must be different.
But it's a really positive way to self-identify how you might irritate other people, rather than a negative way to say, you pissed me off by doing something. It was self-identification, which turned into a positive exercise. So again, I'd highly recommend that if you're ever doing anything in a team, it's a really good exercise to do.
So what kind of thing what was your XYZ? I might annoy you guys for...
my list was too long to go through.
Let's ask you. What was the thing that ultimately did annoy the guys that you did?
So for me, I was the main organizer. So I brought the team together, and then I sort of came up with a plan of actions and generally sort of wanted to push. And I realized I was annoying the guys and by trying to get things done too quickly to my time frame. So I was then very conscious of that. So during the programming phase of it and the planning phase of it, I had to step back a bit and ease my foot off. And I realized if I then set deadlines, rather than say, guys, why haven't you done this? That's annoying. I sent you this a week ago. I then set deadlines and would say, look, if this is not done by 7 working days or whatever, I'm going to jump in and pick that up. And then that way, we agreed that that was a good way for me to deal with my sort of OCD and obsession with planning, and then not to step on their toes as well. So
that was in the pre-launch phase.
Yeah. So there's a 2-year lead in to get to the start line. Yeah.
And who created that 2 years? Is that just how long it took you, or is that what they advised?
How long it takes from the initial concept, signing up to the race, so then ordering the boat. There's a lead-in period to get the boat made. You've got to go on lots of training courses as well. So there's actually a set week for ocean rowers with a company in the UK. So I had to get back for that. So I had to go, this is during COVID, I had to go via Iceland for 11 days to avoid the Heathrow quarantine.
Yeah.
I spent 11 days in Iceland and then went back to the UK. When I landed in the UK, everyone from every country was mixed into the same melting pot at customs. So it's completely pointless exercise sending people away. Anyway, I got through, did the course, then we went straight to, and the course was everything from sea survival. So if somebody has their head cracked open by an oar, how are you going to fix that at sea? Because no one's going to come and help you. You need to get that done. So we did the full sea survival course, learning how to use the life raft, life jackets, how to fix the water maker. There was all sorts of things. There was navigation, VHF radio. It was an incredible course. And then we then went straight to the boat, and to qualify for the race, you need to spend a minimum of 120 hours on the boat. So that's 5 days minimum training on it, as well as obviously training on rowing machines and all the physical stuff you do. So 5 days minimum on the boat. And because I lived overseas, I couldn't get back because of COVID, and I had planned to come back for lots of long weekends.
Where did the guys live in the UK?
They were in the UK.
Okay.
So I had to come back and just smash this 5-day row. So we went out into the North Sea for 5 days. Now I finished, I can tell you. We did cheat. We rowed into estuaries and stopped at little pubs for lunch and stuff like that.
Instead of what? Oh, no, you had to be self-sustaining again?
Yeah, so those 120 hours, there are various rules. There's, I think it's 40 hours or something have to be at night time. You've got to do another, I think 60 hours in the open sea. There was all sorts of rules and regulations, and we had to take videos of us showing the race organisers we knew how to use our kit and equipment and safety equipment and stuff. So anyway, we would do all these like tests, etc., and then we would just row into an estuary, find a pub with a nice little pontoon, tie the boat up, go and have a nice dinner and a couple of pints, and then sleep on the boat and row back out the next morning.
Okay, so then you've done your 2-year lead in on the prepping on the seas. How did you feel? Like nervous, excited? Like what's the tension like going into the event with the team?
It's electric, absolutely electric. I had the most emotional conversation with my father that I've ever had.
Oh, really?
The morning of the race, I asked him to meet me in a coffee shop in La Gomera. I told him not to bring mum, so she stayed in the hotel, and he came down to meet me, and I slid across a piece of paper, and it had all of my bank accounts here and in the UK, trading accounts, real estate, whatever it was, everything, slid it across to him. And I said, this is just in case I don't make it back. This is going to make it easier for you. We then had a chat. I told him I was going to make it back, not to worry, but just in case. I said, then we sort of had a big hug. Said goodbye to him. I said I'll see him at the pontoon. I went to the race start briefing with my teammates and then walked down. Also, the day before was quite interesting. I went off on my own. I suddenly felt I needed to like have a sort of release. So I went on a little trail run, and I got to the top of this little hill and I overlooked La Gomera harbour to my left, and I looked to the right, and it was literally the direction we were going out into the Atlantic. There was just nothing there. And I did a little video. It was about, I called it the unemotional man showing some emotion, and I was basically talking about how I'm looking forward to, but I'm quite scared of being stuck with my own emotions, because there's no television, there's no internet. So here in the real world, if you have a dark thought, somebody annoys you, whatever it is, you've got all these different things you can go to. You can go and just go and have a drink with a friend. You can go on the internet. You can watch a movie. But in the Atlantic, you're just stuck with your own thoughts, and that was quite a very scary concept. So I sat there and I did this video of myself talking to myself. I think I posted it online as well. But I was just saying that for me, that was one of the most scariest things about the Atlantic Road. The physical side, I knew I could get through. Your body adapts. And you know that from ultramarathons as well. You go through these lows, but your body will always push through. Your mind's going to break first. And it was this isolation, this not having any thing that you can do to take your mind off it besides eat, sleep, row, repeat. That's what scared me the most, is having to face up to old dark thoughts. And
how was the reality of that? Did that fear match the experience?
No, it was absolutely fine. You start to realise that you're a lot stronger mentally than you give yourself credit for, and any dark thoughts that you've had, throughout your life, they do come up on the road. And you think about things, and also I had another mental challenge on the boat. I was dating a girl, sent her money to come to the finish line, and during the row her messages got colder and colder and colder, and I had to block that out.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of not think about that, plan out my future with her, which is what I was doing on the boat, because you have these positive anchors, and when I got there she obviously wasn't there, so for me that was quite devastating. Yeah,
fair enough.
But everyone has their mental battles.
How did the guys do? Like, was there any breakdowns, any meltdowns, any?
Yeah, everyone has their moments. My moment was when I never used hot water in the morning, and boiling water was quite an effort in a little jet boil in rough seas, and you're there. And I never used the hot water in the morning. But as a team, we said whoever comes off the morning shift does the first boil of the day, and then at night time we did a second boil. And in the mornings, I think we're about a week to go, and I just threw my toys out the pram, and I just said, guys, I never use hot water in the mornings. I'm not doing it. If you guys want hot water, you do it. And I went in my cabin, sort of calmed down a bit, and I came out and said, sorry about that, guys. I realised I was being a dick. Blah, blah, blah.
Did your chores? You did your chores?
Did my chores, yeah. One of our teammates, he had a moment, actually, when we were coming in. We could have come in at about 1 or 2 in the morning, but we decided to get to about 20 miles off the coast of Antigua. Very difficult thing to decide, but we decided not to come in the darkness. So you've been out there for 37 days at this point, and we thought we could just get in. But then we were like, it's better to come in daylight. Our friends and family, be nicer for them, and then all the bars and restaurants will be open as we come into English Harbour in Antigua. So we put our oars out, and then the plan was to come in at sunrise, but one thing led to another, and we got in at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. One of the guys didn't like that, and we didn't understand at the time why he was upset. We found out afterwards, and we said, sorry, we weren't trying to sabotage the timing to come in. It just happened. And then another guy had a moment over the use of the water maker. So we all had our one moment.
Yeah.
But as a team, we finished, and we're still talking. Is it okay to say rude stories on a podcast?
Maybe, shoot, yeah, we'll see. Just maybe, I was going to say, don't say any names, but tell the story.
So the head safety officer was telling us in one of our training programs, about two guys who were friends since they were 4 years old, and they were now in their 40s, and they did the race 2 years before us. And they got halfway across, and one of the guys said to the other guy, "I can't take it anymore." And the other guy's like, what? We've been friends for 40-something years now. What are you talking about? And he goes, "I've been sleeping with your wife for the last 6 months." And he used that as the example of how you need to be fully open, honest, and transparent with each other before you go out, because your emotions will get heightened by 1,000 out there with the sleep deprivation and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
What happened the rest of that race for those two boys?
Well, I actually put my hand up, and I said, "Was the wife there at the finish line?" And he said, "No comment." So, yeah.
Did they finish the race?
They finished the race, yeah. Well, there was no other choice. They're in the middle of the Atlantic.
Did they can't press that little beaker button and get a helicopter to take him out?
No.
So they did the second half having that revelation.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing about being halfway just suddenly made me think of this massive storm we got caught in the tail end of it. So we weren't in the storm; it was just pushing these big swells. The very first night, Will and I were off duty at the same time, when we were both asleep in the battle cabin in the front, and Toby was on the oars. And at this stage, about halfway across, the weight distribution of the boat had changed because of eating food from different lockers, and things had moved. So suddenly, on these very, very steep waves, the boat would be almost sort of vertical at times, which meant the rudder came out of the water at the very, very, very top of the wave. So suddenly the rudder alarm would go off and it would lock. So we would get these knocks on the door, and it happened 3 times. So, and Toby's there going, "Get out on deck, get out on deck." And we already knew it was big, big seas. You're looking at basically like rows of houses just coming at you. And at night time, it's even more scary because you just see these walls of darkness coming at you. So there we were, and Toby's on the deck. We jump up. You put your harness on. You're wearing your sort of wet shorts, and you just get on the deck, and you just see these walls of darkness, and suddenly you realise your beam on. So if you're in a boat,
realise what?
So like side onto the waves.
Okay.
So in a boat, if you're facing the waves, you just ride up and down and over them like this. If you're side on, that's when you start to roll and you capsize, and it's really, really dangerous. So we're side on to these absolute monsters. And it was the only time I saw panic in the other boys' eyes. I was like, right, yeah, guys, this is it. This is serious. So anyway, we had to get Will and I in the oars. So trying to turn a 3 or 4 ton rowing boat, it took 2 of us in big seas. And Toby had to time it with the cabin to basically put his head out the door and go, 3, 2, 1, start turning, tell me now. And then he would shut the door, lock it, and then try and engage the auto helm so that we're going in the right direction again. The issue was, with the steepness of the waves and the momentum of the turn, it took us multiple attempts to get the boat back in the right direction and then re-engage the auto helm. It happened a few times, and then Toby worked out it was a weight distribution issue. So then we actually moved some of our stores to the rear of the boat, and actually when Will was not rowing at night time, he would then sleep in the stern cabin, which meant there was a bit more weight in the back, which kept the rudder in the water. But yeah, 3 times on deck, I thought this is it. This is game over. So that was the only time I was really scared on the row.
That's terrifying. Because it is the case of it's not like at least when you're on land, you're not going to drown. Firstly, you can probably find somewhere to shelter and hold until somebody hopefully comes to find you, or you can at least relax, rest, recover, and hopefully feel better the next day, and then make your own way to a more rescuable spot. But in the ocean, like you're dead, you're gone, no time.
Yeah. Like, this is the ultimate test of physical and mental endurance, and you really, really work out who you are when you do it. Yeah. There's no room for ego. You've just got to get on with it, and it gives you this amazing positive mindset as well. So, in the past, if things weren't going right, you might just suddenly have a tantrum and go, I can't, fuck this, I'm going home. Or, as you say, go and find shelter. You just had to face it. Yeah. Like, how can I fix this? And you get into that mentality. Yeah,
we had a similar, it's completely different levels, but when I was doing an adventure race in India, and we're completely lost in the jungle, in the sense where we knew where up and down was. We were following a riverbed. The jungle was getting pretty dense. It was 4 of us with our mountain bikes going through thick, dense overgrowth, handing bikes to each other, passing it down these rocky waterfalls.
See, like, that scares the crap out of me, being in a jungle at night time. I've done it.
This was daytime, thankfully. Okay? It was daytime, thankfully. But what it meant was, okay, we're lost. We know where we have to go, and it's down. We've just come from up. We're on our way down. We know the trail back up, and we can retrace our steps. But it's easier to beat. We have to beat our way back up because we're beating our way down, and it's either up or down. That's the choice. So down is easier way to beat. The only risk that we're potentially facing going down is we get so dense we can't beat through it, or we get to a waterfall that's just way too high and it's just a rocky waterfall. There's no way down. So those two things were the only two things that I was thinking are going to be the stopping point. And with the denseness of the overgrowth, we could dump the bikes. Worst case scenario, dump the bikes, walk out. The canopy was too thick, the leaves and stuff was too thick to be rescued. We were out of water. We had a little stream below us, and we had these little water filter things, but we were trying not to use them because it's just, you don't really want to be drinking river water. Yeah. But it was just a case of, it puts the problems in perspective, because it's like there's no other problem right now that matters. It's just we just have to. The problem, I've got to manage myself. I've got to manage my interaction with the team, and we've got to manage us as a team to get down the hill, get down this whatever. And then I remember when, I think it was that next day, or going to the airport the day after, I got a message from someone, and they were like, is this event that we've been talking about in the past, is this event happening a few months away? I'm like, yep. I need to know now so I can, because people are asking me, was the message. And I was like, that's such an insignificant world problem, that this person is putting onto me. They want me to solve their problem by telling them when the event date is, so that they can then tell other people. Whereas I just beat my way out of a jungle yesterday. This problem doesn't matter. Yeah. But to them, it's a big problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you see, that mindset is what you gain from doing these adventures. Yeah. It's a positive, I can fix this mindset. Yeah. Rather than, let's find some help. I want someone else to do this for me.
Yeah, and also I get how you're seeing the world right now. There's people asking you don't quite know the answer, and it's frustrating you. So now you're asking me for the answer, which is fine. But the little bit of haste that you put into this message, I'm like, this is not a big problem. Yeah. I'll get you the info when I get you the info, and then you'll tell the people, whether it's tomorrow or whether it's a week, they'll still have it in a week. Yeah. Like, this is not a big issue. So that really made me realize, like, some of these problems might seem like big problems.
It's trivial stuff.
Yeah, this person just let it get into get into that little spot in their nervous system. They're like, they're angsty now. They're push. It's like, calm, relax. Yeah. Come to the jungle with me. Then they'll get your problems in a perspective. Yeah. But I don't know about fighting midnight monsters on a boat in the middle of the ocean.
An example of that actually was the trip we just did to Everest, when we had the helicopter things going on, and we were trying to get out, and we were stuck on Everest because of bad weather. Yeah. And myself and my nephew, I just said to him, look, it's pretty obvious, but there's no chance we're getting a chopper today. Let's just enjoy it. Yeah. So we went to like the little hut, and we bought some beers. I think we bought a packet of cigarettes as well, which is a bit naughty. Yeah. We were just there, literally thought this was the coolest day ever. Helicopters coming in, we're in the middle of the Himalayas. Just enjoy it, have a couple of beers. Yeah, that's relax. It. And there were people around who were out of their comfort zone, and you could see that. And again, I took that experience and I sort of tried to make it into a positive experience for Hugo, my nephew. Yeah. To really say to him that these situations will happen. Don't worry about it. Eventually we'll get off the mountain. Yeah. It happens. So, and we did.
Yeah, exactly. And that's probably some people who've had experiences like you will have that mindset, whereas, okay, we're now off script. What's important? Everyone's safe. Nobody's hurt. Well, one girl actually was hurt. We did have to get her down. She'd hurt her wrist. So she had an element of urgency. But everyone else, okay, fine. So now, even with that person, we can put her forward first for the first opportunity, and the rest of us can get down. Anybody who had altitude sickness, it had passed by now, because we were down so low. But there was a lot of people in the group who had that mindset. Yeah. This is it. This is the adventure. We're in Nepal. Yeah. We're making decisions. We're going to push through and figure out the next problem in a minute. And then, like you said, some people, they didn't see it that way. And it's interesting because it's kind of like what you said, where you have your moment with your hot water, you go into your cabin, you collect yourself pretty quick by the sounds of your story. Some people, I would hope they've collected themselves, and in retrospect they look back and they go, it's probably a bit too late to apologize now, I'm just going to get on with my life. Whereas some people would reach out and apologize. You know, it's like, okay, I should have maybe not even apologized, because there's nothing that warranted an apology, but just an acknowledgement of oops, kind of I fumbled the ball there a little bit, sorry guys. You know, we could have all pursued that goal a bit more unified. So sometimes you just don't know what people reflect upon it.
And actually the mindset of, okay, this is something I can do better or faster, is something I went into the row thinking sort of subconsciously. But actually now I've realized that, will this help me get to the end goal if I jump in, or shall I let that person run with it? And now I just let people run with things. I'm a bit more sort of...
It's a very interesting... You're absolutely right. That is... I never looked at it that way. There is... In a large group like that, there is people who have ideas and suggestions. And it's like, I don't know if all these suggestions are going to be helpful. And then some of them are definitely not helpful. And kind of one person throwing out suggestions, they're trying to help, they mean well, but it's like there's more information in circulating here than than everybody is not privy to all the information. So sometimes you just need to sit back. We're still a team. Those people that we're on the phone to have our best interests at heart. We have everybody's best interests at heart. If you guys can just look after your little mini pods, look after your own little micro interests, you know, in your little friendly groups, keep everyone happy. Then we'll get there. So it's interesting. Now you look at those things back, like you said, you have your moment. You've reflected on your experiences. You hope some people reflect on their experiences and they go, do you know what? I could have done better. Like I know, looking back on that day, I could have done better. There's things I could have done better with, you know. Myself and Caroline were
like life's a learning curve, you know. It is.
And then it's just like we were in the mountains in Nepal. The airport was closed. We don't speak the language. Do you know? It just, for anybody listening, it wasn't a massive problem. It was just we were trying to find multiple ways down off the mountain as quick as we could, because we all had flights to get out of the city the next day. And then we had to make some sacrifices and stay an extra night.
Just a quick shout out to Vince as well. Vince had an amazing positive mindset all the time. He was brilliant.
Vince is the man. So on the trip, we each evening we do these highs and lows. Like, what's your high? What was your low? And usually the lows are like, when I stepped in the yak poo. Do you know, the low is not like, when I hate you, Sam. You've been bothering me all day with that thing you keep doing. It's not like that. It's like, what's a bird pooed on my shoulder. Do you know, that's the kind of low. That's the fun. And the high is, you know, a really good views, or I really liked when this happened. It was amazing. Vince had no lows, and it wasn't that he was just like, nope, there's no lows. Everything's great. He would have a think. He'd sit there. He'd quietly be like,
all good?
No, I don't. Nothing. Everything's amazing. This is like such a good thing. It's like, this is amazing. Vince is absolutely the man. So
he's great,
massive shout out to him.
So this mindset stuff is actually something that I've now started to work on with my new venture. So I'm taking what I've learned from my ultra endurance sort of skills set, and I'm now going to apply that to the corporate world. So I've set up a new company where I've collected now about 25 inspirational speakers, and we're going to be doing 2 tranches. We're going to be doing ad hoc talks for corporates. So that could be fun after dinner speaks. It could be, you know, more serious sort of corporate things where we're going in and actually talking about life skills learnt from ultra endurance and expeditions. But then there's the actual corporate program side as well. So I've teamed up with an award-winning psychologist called Tess Pereira. So I can go along, let's say, and talk about my row story, talk about my career and my row story, and link those two together and talk about all the benefits. Tess can then jump in and go, great, you showed great like teamwork there, or leadership, or conflict resolution, whatever it is, and talk about it from a psychological perspective. And then I'm then going to bring in more speakers on an ad hoc basis for like different modules who are specialists in different areas. You know, ex-army guys talking about building award-winning teams, or ultra runners talking about the importance of endurance and whatever it is. So I'm basically building out this amazing corporate program that's going to be quite unique, and it's based on people who have reached the top of the corporate world, set up their own businesses, whatever it is, as well as had these amazing life experiences and how that's benefited them personally and their careers. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now.
That is good. I mean, a lot of those things, when you go in front of a corporate world, you can talk to them about all the psychology stuff, but if it comes across like you've read it in a book or you've listened to it on a podcast, it doesn't have the same impact, because they could read it in the book, they could listen to that same podcast, they know how to process information. But what you're doing differently, which I think is great, is you've got people who've got stories, they've proven they've done it. And I'm sure in the corporate world, the higher you go, you get that kind of appeal to authority mindset complex, whatever fallacy, whatever way you want to call it, where unless the person's walked the walk, are they able to talk the talk? Because I can listen to a podcast, so I can read a book. Yeah. But getting people who've done those, if you have led military teams, if you have competed a marathon to syllabus, and then now it's different. Now you have my attention. Yeah. And also we're looking at it from two angles. One of them is the like senior guys in the C-suite and how we can benefit them with, let's say, building teams and all that kind of stuff. Then the other part is actually looking at the youngsters. So the Gen Zs, they've got a completely different mindset. So the likes of me and you, when I started working, I worked at Deloitte, etc., and I would do 12, 14, 16-hour days, and I was never told the bigger picture, and blah, blah, blah. These kids nowadays, they're coming into companies, and they're doing 3, 6, 9, 12 months. And they're like, what the hell is this? There's far more to life than this. So then they're leaving. So setting up a program where companies can support youngsters who are coming into the corporate world for the first time and saying we're a great company, but we'll also support you externally to help you follow your dreams and drive your passions. And then you can bring those skills back to the company. And that's going to really benefit you as an individual and your career as well. So that's something else that we're really pushing for these corporates is to take on these programs, get us in there. I've linked up with like Sean Burgess and Caroline with Summit Expeditions as well, so we can take people up Kilimanjaro and Everest Base Camp and stuff like that, as well as the inspirational talks and guidance on that side for these people, and try to get them to set goals beyond their beliefs. That's the plan. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, we try and do the same in the gym. It's rather than just trying to lose weight, put a big goal in the diary and let's get moving towards it. Why do you think youngsters are doing 3-6 months and then leaving? Like, what's the issue? There have been various studies. A really good example, I just met with a chap who used to be the CEO of a bank here. He's late 60s, and he was talking about one of his kids was just offered a role at Sotheby's, a big auction house, global brand. And his kid decided not to join the big global brand, instead decided to go and join a startup because they didn't want to have the pressure and responsibility and the timekeeping, etc., of being with a large company. So it's just been a shift in mindset. I think it's just the schools and universities now, and kids are coming out and going, there's more to life than literally being a cog in a machine. I want to know the big picture. I want to use my skills. I want to add value. And I think that's where companies now need to adapt and actually allow people to follow their passions and their dreams, find out what their strengths are and let them run with it. And you're starting to see the shift in the older, more established internationals now. But that's why more of the youngsters have been wanting to go join the smaller, newer startups, because they get that freedom. Oh, well, listen, joining a startup, you're about to experience it. We've had a startup for the last few years. It's definitely got its stresses and strains. So sometimes the stress of falling in line with a system where a lot of things are taken care of and you do have a pathway, you do have a plan, that can be a lot more, a lot less stressful, we'll say, in the long term than lying awake at night, having just found out that whatever supplier or dealer or financial revenue stream was about to come in is not coming through. So good luck to that. So what's the company called? We'll wrap up now in a second, but what's the company called? EnduranceXL. .com is the website. As I said, I've already got, without trying, about 20-25 inspirational speakers. I've got some amazing people who set up sort of extreme medicine. So they sort of work sort of like testing out the science behind getting doctors into extreme environments.
I've got people who have run ultra marathons, ocean rowers, ex-military people. Yourself's on there, Keith, as well.
Yeah,
coming on board. Yeah,
I wouldn't put me ahead of any of those people, but if a lot of people call in sick.
Who else have I got? I've got sort of award-winning psychologists on board. I've got an economist as well. Chris Payne, he's regularly on Bloomberg and CNN and stuff like that. But Chris has an amazing journey. He went from being an investment banker for 15 years, becoming morbidly obese. Then he transferred to the sort of economist world, trained up in that, and wrote a book called The Economist Diet. Got published, and now he is one of the main economists in the region. So he can come along, talk to companies about his journey from investment banker to an economist, talk about the losing weight in the sports side. He now runs and he does triathlons and stuff like that, and then he can then give companies, macro and micro sort of economic overviews and sectoral overviews and stuff like that. So again, I've got a broad range of speakers.
Yeah, lovely.
And super cool. Looking forward to next year and getting going.
Yeah, man. Best of luck with that. And anything you want to talk about or promote through us, let me know.
Appreciate it.
So where can people find you online? What's your social media stuff?
I'm under Desert Adventurer, or there's the company website and Instagram. Yeah, like that's enduranceXL.com, or the Instagram again. So
beautiful. Cool. All right, well, thanks for coming, Sam. We shall chat to you again soon. Cheers, guys.